Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Booksplosion live show, our first Booksplosion live show of 2018. Today, we're going to be discussing Before I Let Go by Marieke Nijkamp, and we're working with Source Books this month. We're also going to be taking your questions over on Twitter using the hashtag #LostSplosion. So if you want us to answer your questions, go on over to Twitter, ask us some questions. Who wants to start us off and share their non-spoilery thoughts on this book?
Wait, who are we?
Booksplosion! Oh, I'm Christine.
I'm Kat.
I'm Jesse. Okay, who wants to start us off with thoughts?
Kat,
Christine?
you do it.
I'll do it. So I actually enjoyed this book a lot more than I was expecting. I just read it yesterday, so I've seen like there have been some mixed reviews, and I was a little bit like, am I gonna like this? But because I knew that going in, I feel like I liked it a lot more. Because like I knew more what to expect. Like I didn't have expectations for like how it was gonna go. But like I was so into this book when I was reading it. Like the writing is really great and it's so gripping and suspenseful, and there's like this huge mystery. It's like, what is going on? And I loved that. I think the ending was a little bit not maybe a little bit underwhelming, if that's the right word, because I felt like we had a lot of like suspense and build up, but not enough like closure and answers about some aspects.
Yeah.
But I did feel like the emotional arc of the story was satisfying still. Like I still feel like we did have a good arc and we completed our journey. I just wanted more like resolution on the plot side of things rather than like the emotional I feel resolved, but like the plot side of things, I'm like, wait, what? About a couple things, which we'll get into when we get into the spoilers section.
I agree on a lot of what you just said. Like I enjoyed the suspense aspect of the book. Like I love that, and I loved how annoyed I was with like what's like with like not knowing what was going on, and I wanted to figure it out, and like, but when we got to the end, I was just like, wait, what? we're not gonna touch on this. Like,
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the characters and their relationship. My favorite parts were like the flashbacks to the build of the relationship between our two main characters, Kira and Corey. I thought that was really interesting and it unfolded really nicely. I just wanted more resolution with like the present tense storyline.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with both of you guys. Like, you guys pretty much said everything that I was going to say. Like, I loved the writing style specifically. Like, there were so many passages in here that I was like, oh, that is beautiful. And I loved how, like, engaging it was. Like, I could not put this book down. Like, I literally read it in, like, 3 sittings, which is really fast for me because I take my time with books. But I was just so, like, let down with the ending. Like, I just felt like there could have been so much more we could have explored with that. And, like, I just wanted more from it. I felt like it was really anticlimactic because I was like, I don't know, I was just so engaged in the story. It's like, oh, what are we going to get to? What are we going to get to? And then it just like let me down a little bit. So, but overall, I really enjoyed it. It was like,
it's like the character plot line is really great. Like their arcs are really nice. And it's just, it's the suspense that it doesn't really have the payoff.
There's like, the payoff thing. But like, there's so much great emotion that I loved. And I love kind of like the themes and messages about how, you know, they're making this girl like less than human because of, you know, a quality about her. Like they're not seeing her complexly as a person. They're like reducing her down to, oh, she's the girl with bipolar. Like that's all she is. And so I really loved that so much of this book was like, you're not only like your mental health problems or some factor of your identity, like you are worth more than just like what you can provide to other people. So I love that aspect. But yeah, like I want to get to spoilers now because no,
I thought it was really beautiful how they kind of how it was her mental health was described and how they talked about it. Like I've never seen a character like that kind of in the light that she was shown in, you know, like the way that she described her illness and stuff. Like hearing Kira talk about it was really fascinating, and I feel like I learned a lot by reading her point of view. I think it was just beautifully written, like the way she talked about everything and described her feelings.
Yeah. I like the whole book. I was so heartbroken for Kyra, like the entire time, because even
I think it's pronounced Kira. Someone specifically was like,
okay. Kira. Okay. Yeah, like my heart was just breaking for her the whole time because like she just wants to belong and be loved. And even her best friend, when she talks about like trying different medication to get better, her best friend is like, "But won't you miss the hero days? Like, won't you miss the highs?" And she's like, but like that's not me, like that's not worth it for these like even her best friend, like the one person she had didn't get it. I felt for Kira so much during this whole book. I was just like, you poor child.
Yeah, like so misunderstood in so many ways by like the people closest to her. Like it hurt so much seeing her parents
and her best friend.
Parents.
Oh my god, it burned. Should we go into spoilers?
Yeah, we're going to be going into the spoilery section now, so if you have not read before I let go read it, and then come back and watch this recorded live show.
Okay.
All right, spoiler time. Let's get into it.
The town is like out of the Twilight Zone, and it's never touched on how they like just like come out and chant and like kill people. Like
I just like watch when like a building is burning. They're just like watching it, like
They're just like, you don't belong. You don't belong.
I liked that aspect, even though we didn't get an explanation for it, because I loved like this small town, like isolated, claustrophobic, cult-like community kind of vibes to it. I was upset that there were like no real consequences about anything. Like this guy just tried to kill a girl in the woods, and like she's just gonna fly home and be like, now I have resolution. Like he set the house on fire when you were in it. Like that, like send someone back to that town. Like I don't know how to handle it. I don't know how to fix it. But like the fact that this guy essentially like pushed his own daughter to like die, and then like that was like trying to cut. It was just, I was like, why is no one like standing up for what's right in this situation?
No.
Yeah, like how is there no one person who like come out against the system? You know, like Rashawn and Sam are there, but they're still not like calling a different like someone get someone in there.
Yeah, like even the characters that we like, and who like kind of stand up to the system, like they don't really. I mean, like the old caretaker guy, Aaron, who like stood up for her at the funeral, at the wake, the memorial, whatever that scene was. Like he stood up for her then, but then like he still lived in the town and still was like complicit in all the activities and like.
And what was that scene when like she went to his town? I thought for a second he had been killed by the town because like she went back to his cabin and like the door was open and there was like snow on the ground.
Yeah.
What the hell was going on? What the hell was the scene where she was like running away and then she was in the forest and like there were all these lights and like eyes on her?
Yeah. That's something that I felt like we never got any closure or resolution or addressing. And that's why it made it feel like the suspense in the beginning parts was kind of misleading or like fake, because it's like, okay, so there are no ghosts. There are no explanations for why Corey is like seeing these things. Like I thought Corey was going to have, you know, a mental health issue of her own or something. And we would have a parallel like that. Experience. And yeah, I was like, this is creepier than just like a standard like grieving like she's actually like seeing ghosts and like hearing footsteps and hearing whispers, and I was like, is that like what's going on?
Well, I thought for like my like theory with this is that it was Kira and Kira's like magic, you know, like she has this like weird prophet ability. So maybe
is that what you believe? Do you believe that Kira was seeing the future and she was a prophet?
She definitely was. It was so weird. She was painting the future. She had that ability from Heroes. And as soon as we know that she had that ability, I thought that they like let her die because that's kind of dangerous. Like she could paint something bad and then it could happen and like it could get in the wrong hands or something. But like at the same time, then we learned, like, you know, she doesn't like painting and like this is, you know, they were just using her and all that stuff. Like that revelation at first, it's like, oh, like there's something else happening here. It's not just like they killed her because she's different, even though they were basically killing her because she's different.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting learning, like, the only thing they ever had to worry about is kind of her. She's had all these episodes in the past that we don't learn till like further on in the book, like when she almost died in the water of hypothermia, and like they had to go get her out, and they were like all watching, like, yeah, that was the second time they were all watching. I feel like they were watching both times, and she like ran out. No, they were.
That was the second time.
Ran out, and Corey had to like go and run to get help with it.
Yeah. But and so we get more of an idea of why like the town looks at her as this freak, because it just like, there's different levels of bipolar stuff, and like this is like serious. Like this is like she could potentially really harm herself.
Yeah. Honestly, the part when her parents were, oh my God, so frustrating because of like she wanted to go get better. Like she wanted to go to like Fairbanks clinic and like try different. She wanted to see her therapist, and her parents wouldn't let her go and withheld her medication. And they're not going to face any consequences from that, aside from like, their own guilt. Even though I don't know what the father feels like. Maybe him reading her journal and her notes and stuff will help him understand. But we don't get to, like I wanted
we don't get that closure.
Yeah, closure with that.
Or like take him to court. I don't know, do something.
Yeah, that scene with the safe, like that was so scary. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
These parents are like out of the Twilight Zone. I just don't understand. They basically raised this girl was their daughter's best friend all their life, and then all of a sudden they turn on her to the point where they're like they'll kill her because they want to protect the town. Well, and like
I was also like confused as to like why, if they knew that she was going to be a threat to the town, why would they like allow her to come stay with them?
Why would they even have her come back? Like, why would she? Why would she want to stay with them? I feel like,
and, like at first they seem like so inviting and stuff. They're like, oh yeah, come stay with us. It's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. But then it's just like, no.
But immediately they're like different. They're like weirdly cold. And like that paint.
Now I'm wondering though, like this trip was in the plan beforehand. Like what? Like she was already planning to come even while Kira was still alive. So like, what were the parents thinking then when they're thinking, oh, the girl's best friend, the only one who stood up for her, is coming, when we have withheld her medication, locked her away in the spa, and like, what was their plan?
Did they know because of the paintings that it was all going to happen?
I don't know.
There were See, I don't think that Kira was actually predicting the future and seeing anything.
You don't?
No, I don't think there was a fantasy or magical aspect. I think it's more of like she overhears her father talking to Mr. Sarin about the plan for the towns, and she can kind of like, because she's so in tune with like storytelling, she knows how it's gonna go. She knows that these investors are going to come in and it's going to change the town and like become a bigger thing. And
like she drew the burned down house. They burnt down her house. Like,
she could have like overheard plans for that, or she could have like known that was going to happen, or she did that and it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then the town people are like, we should burn down the house. Like even the picture that she painted of like Piper and Roshan and her like coming back, like the first beginning scene where she first finds that like Kira painted like a prediction kind of thing.
Oh, at the like coffee shop or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like that is still something that like Kira would have known.
How do you explain the garden though, Kat?
Christina's not sold on this argument.
I don't know how to explain the garden.
How do you explain the spring coming, even though it was winter? She was like, I smell it.
I don't know how to explain that. The garden part, that throws a real wrench in my theory of like, Kira was just a normal girl who was like intuitive and like, she was an observer. Like we had that whole little part near the beginning where she talked about how like she would just stand on the street and like watch everyone go by, and like the first day people like looked at her, but like afterwards she became invisible, and so she could observe everyone. Like she knew everything that was like she understood things. I don't know what was up with the garden. I can't explain that. Maybe she was magical, but she was also very observant and smart and like could have known these things in a way that wasn't predicting the future.
I don't think she was predicting the future. I think she was making the future. I think it was like that episode of the Twilight Zone where wherever article like you write happens. So like if you write like the bank explodes tomorrow, like the bank will explode tomorrow. Like, so she would draw things and then they would come true. And that's why the town would go and be like, can you do this for me? And like, can you draw Sam being happy? And then she'd draw Sam being happy. And then Sam would be happy because something would happen to make it happen because she did that. That was my take on that. The whole spa thing, the whole like staying in the spa by herself, like her parents just like were like, yeah, go not live here. I just like, what the heck are these people doing? I still don't get it. Like, I can't compute why her parents would do that to her.
Yeah. I was just really confused by that setting in general. Like, was she just staying like in an abandoned spa?
Yeah. And like how she had a space heater, like in Alaska.
Yeah.
I don't know. And like, so it was so obvious also when they were like, oh, go see the doctor. This part was so creepy. The whole like, we're going to burn down your little shack in the middle of the night and then just watch you like wither on the ground, like dying from the smoke inhalation. And then the next day that they come and like, oh, you were supposed to go to the doctor. And she's like, I was laying there forever and no one even came over. Like,
yeah, that was another thing that felt like a little bit kind of off was that even Corey herself wasn't like shocked or like what's like why are these people this way? Like her reaction, she just like took it in stride that the entire town was like watching her almost die in a fire. She was just like, oh, this is the way it is now. I guess I better go stay away from them and hang out at the spa. I was like, you should be in like I would be freaking out right now.
That makes me like wonder what it was like when she lived there though. Like was she just
it was part of the crew.
Part of her life. So she just like and then when she moved away, she realized how like terrible the town was? Or like was this trip her way of like figuring out like, oh, this town is like terrible? Like
that could have been it.
Yeah, it's probably like you don't see how bad it is till you take a step back and then come back into it, and you're an outsider now.
Yeah, she really did come back with it, not as an outsider, but she had an outside perspective now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Also, can we just talk about that doctor part where they're like, yeah, she really wants to see you. And it's like, obviously they're coming to burn down. I thought they were going to burn down the spa because they don't want any evidence that like what they did to this girl. But, so they did take all the evidence, but they didn't like burn down the spot. But when she's in the doctor's office, it reminded me of that episode of SpongeBob with like Rock Bottom, where like he wants to get on the bus, but like he just can't get on. He can't catch it. And she's just sitting there with that like that lady who used to be like her take care of her and shit, and the lady's being like all like weird and you're gonna die and I hate you. Bye.
Yeah, I think. It's because like I didn't get a really great feel for Corey's personality at all. Like felt a lot like Kira. I totally felt for. Like I felt like she was a real like fleshed out character. Like especially because we had all like the depth of like how she reacts to her disability and stuff like that. And like I love that. But Corey just felt more like a tool to kind of like take us through the story. Like she didn't have super strong reactions about any of the events. Like all of her reactions were more like emotional based around her relationship and stuff like that. So yeah, I felt like Kira was probably
she's like super logical too, and that's not what you get from her. Like she's super like math and logic oriented.
Science,
but like there was never any, she wasn't trying to mathematically figure out like all this weird magic stuff. Like, or we never like, there was like a ghost putting flowers on her every night. I mean, like, what was going on with that? Where were the flowers coming from? Like, was it just like the dad kept creeping around and putting flowers on her? Like,
I don't know. Oh man.
Like so much still unanswered and like in a way where you're just like it doesn't makes sense, not in like a left unanswered as like, oh, now we get to like wonder and like it's a mystery still, but in more of a like, but I don't get that kind of way.
Yeah, like the part where Piper just comes out of like her friend from school like comes out and she's like, go home, and everyone's like, go home. What is happening? Like, how did they organize this? Like, were they just all waiting for her to walk out into the street? Like, so confused.
Yeah. We have some questions if you want to take some questions.
Yeah,
all right. The first question we have here is from Proud Book Lion, and they ask, did you ever think there was an actual single killer? And if so, who do you think it was?
I think the whole town was just like, let's kill people. It's like a creepy, scary town where they come and kill people.
I didn't think it was like that at all. I think it was more like they got swept up in the mob mentality, the cult mentality, and also like, you know, her whole life, Kira had been different. She had been one who like didn't belong. So I don't think there was one killer. I think it like I kind of from the beginning I felt like it was the town that like pushed her to a breaking point. Like just the town in general, the people, like all of it is what like killed Kira, not any one person.
Yeah.
I was just like suspicious of the parents, but then I like quickly changed my mind to like thinking that it was just like the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the town is a mob, like a cult, and they're like, if you're not good enough for our cult, or you're like a threat to it, we take you out. Like that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Okay, Courtney asks, how did you feel about the people in Lost constantly ignoring Corey's questions and giving her vague answers? Did you get aggravated? That is something that annoyed me most in the book, the fact that no one would talk to her about what happened.
Yeah, that was very frustrating.
I was just like, do 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 do.
I thought, yeah, I got that vibe a lot too because so many of their answers were the same. It was like, did they all like get together and have like a town meeting to like set the story? Yeah. Like this is the story.
Like it was her time or whatever.
Just like a star that burned brightly and burned out. Like that star line like kept coming, and I love the imagery of it and the way it tied like Kira to Corey's interests of like astronomy and stuff. But still, I was like,
yeah, it was like they had a they're like, these are the 3 things we say when someone asks what happened. Like,
you just keep repeating them over and over.
Yeah, it was like a robot. It was like the Truman Show. It was just like when like everyone just keeps saying these creepy things that like don't make any sense.
And they're like all in it together. Like it felt like something bigger was going on.
Yeah.
And that's why like it felt like it was building in a different direction because of that. Yeah.
Felt like I was getting a little bit of, did you guys see Get Out yet?
No, I know all about it. I read
it. Yeah, watch it. It's like, it's one thing to know about it, it's another to watch it. It's so good.
Like I've read like because I know that it has a really excellent 3-act structure breakdown, like the way it breaks into like the 3 distinct acts. So like I read a really good breakdown about that. So yeah, I do want to watch. I need to watch it before
the Oscars.
Yeah, which is March, right? I have
time. Twice the day after our live show.
Raven asks, do you think this book would be a good movie?
Ooh.
I mean, it would make an episode of The Twilight Zone. I think we'd have to like add a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
About the town. Like
I kind of think it might be better as a movie than a book because like with movies, I feel like you can leave more unanswered and you can like show a lot more in the atmosphere. I feel like maybe I don't know. I just feel like I wanted more resolution from the book. But if it was a movie, then I feel like I could just write it off as like, okay, weird, creepy town kind of thing. Where it's like, but why are they so creepy? Like, what's really going on?
I think in the movie, if we watched a movie of this, we would think more like that she was having a breakdown for sure. Like we'd see these flowers coming and like we'd see her hearing things and we think that like she's.
see, I'm still confused about if that was really happening or not. Like, because like when she went into Aaron's cabin and like it looked like no one had lived in there for a while, and like she saw a coffee mug that it had like mold growing in it, like it looked so. And then when she came back, the same coffee mug like didn't have mold growing in it. It was just a regular cup of coffee, and like it looked lived in again. Like, what was that?
I don't know. It's so weird. Like
I like books and like mysteries that have like unanswered questions that you can like keep wondering about. But this one, I wanted more. Like it was too unanswered. I feel like
a hint towards one way or the other, just like something more.
But I don't know. At the same time, it gives us a whole lot to discuss for the book club. Like,
yes, like I just wish there was like another clue that was just like not that it told us, but that like something that we could be like, okay, so this had to be real. Like this proof that this one aspect of it is real. So like maybe the other this is not.
There's like a lack of grounding. Like we can't find our footing in like what's real and what's not, and we never find that footing.
Yeah.
I just realized I had it clicked on Christine's face the whole time, so it was just you for that.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, guys. I just realized I had it clicked on Christine.
I've done that before.
So we have a question here from Liz, and they ask, do you think Kira was the first person the town drove to death?
No. With the ease that they were just like, let's burn her down in the middle of the night for like trying to.
It felt like they had done this before. It felt like it wasn't the first time something like this had happened.
This is their move. Like, let's freeze someone to death or burn their house down.
I kind of wish we had a little, like, we don't know what Lost was like before. Like apparently this like version of Lost is like super new to Corey. She's like, everything feels different and changed, and like what happened. But we don't get a lot of sense of like what the town was like when Corey was growing up there. Like her mom moved away for college and then came back, and like that's why Corey was like born and raised there. But like, what's her mom's feelings on the town as someone?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, why wasn't her mom like? If I was her mother and I had not heard from her for days, like her cell phone melted, like I would be going crazy. Like when she said, "Oh, I didn't actually promise my mom that I'd call every day." Like, are you kidding me? It's 2017. Like, you have a cell phone, you can call your mom every day. It was just like batshit that she didn't try to call anybody. You know, my first thing after I was almost murdered by the town would be to like find a phone, no matter what, and call someone. Like call my mom. She knows the town. Like have her talk to somebody. I don't know. Get me out of here. Send a fleet.
Yeah, it felt like Corey was kind of resigned to just like, this is the way the town is. They might kill me, but I was like, no, like.
No, you have options.
Yeah.
Do you think her mom was shunned when she went to college and then came back, or do you think that didn't happen?
Weird.
I don't know. That's what I want, like a more of an explanation to, because like Corey was accepted by the town, like on the days when like Kira stayed home from school, like she had friends in school and like she was accepted by the town. So I don't think that. I don't know. I don't know.
Or is it because Corey came with a motive? Corey came with a motive to like figure it out, so that's why.
Or also like her dad might have grown up in the town and they're married, so like they accepted her too because she also grew up there. Like it's strange.
So many questions.
I like if I learned that they burned down my house too, like after I moved away, I would be like, no. I'm gonna come with you, like, or just something. Like, I just don't understand why there's no concern.
Yeah. We have a question from Brittany. They ask, did you guys ever think Kyra faked her death and was going to reveal herself to Corey at some point?
I didn't hold on to that as like a theory, but it could have been a possibility. I don't know. I didn't really. I thought that the fantastical, speculative aspects. I didn't really believe they were fantastical. So, but I guess that wouldn't matter about Corey faking her death. Like, no, I didn't think she faked it. I don't think.
Yeah, I didn't either. I thought it was real.
I had that kind of in the back of my mind, but I was also like, that would be really cliche to go that way. So
yeah, like I had, you know, it's just like when you're reading a book and you think of like all the like it was a possibility it could go there, but I like latched onto it.
Yeah.
I kind of, from the beginning, I kind of thought like it was the town that pushed her. I thought it was more in a mean way. Like I didn't think it was that they like dehumanized her and turned her into this prophet and reduced her to like just that. I thought that they had maybe like pushed her to do it, like being like, it would be better if you weren't here kind of thing, like bullied her into doing it. Rather than
I can't believe she's trying to run away and they wouldn't let her go.
Plan to escape via plane. She was ready to go and the whole town was waiting for her when she tried to board the plane. That I was just like, I wanted her to, I was so bummed, like, Kira, because Kira was the one I was most attached to. Like,
I thought the letter was so heartbreaking when she was like, I hope I get out of here alive. But if
like, all her letters and just even the fact that she was so lonely and like not even her parents and her best friend understood her or could like value her as a person separate from her mental health. Like, I was, poor girl.
That was so frustrating. Like Corey kept like trying to like defend her and be like, how could you think this? And they would just be like, no, this was her purpose. Like, that's why she was here.
She's a 17-year-old girl who wanted to live and wanted to get better. Like, this was not her, this was not her destiny.
One of the things that I think that like I thought we were gonna find out about, but we never did, were like those Alaskan myths. I feel like her dad was like a hardcore believer in these myths, and maybe there was something about like some powers being like to the what is it called? The people who are
indigenous people of Alaska.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe that there was like some abilities and like his daughter had one and she had to let it run its course and they're supposed to just stay in this spot. Like I thought there was going to be some explanation to why the dad was like a crazy murderer who would not let his daughter leave the state, you know?
That would have been more interesting. I feel like if it was like the dad believed in like the grandfather's stories and was like following those as like a guide of.
That's what it was alluded to, but it was never, we never were given enough information to be like, oh, cool, that makes sense now. You know, not cool, but like, oh, scary, that makes sense now.
Right.
Because she went to his room and she was like, oh, look at all these myths and all this stuff. And yeah.
We have another question from Brittany, and they ask, do you think there was anything Corey could have done to save Kira?
Maybe freaking reply to her email, maybe talk to her. Like,
well, it wasn't email, it was real mail.
Real letter, yeah. Like, I definitely get the fact that like Corey was trying to adjust to new life, and she was happy there, and she like that struggle of like, I'm happy here, and I know you would be too, but you're sad and like stuck and lost. Like, I could understand that, like, how do I tell my friend this? But to not write to her at all, like, who knows if she would have even gotten the letters from her dad, like holding them and like keeping so much from her. But like, to not write her at all, to not let her know that like you are still there for her and you are still coming back. Like, they weren't in a romantic relationship, even though Kira did love her and stuff, and they loved it, but they were like each other's people. Like, they had a bond that was like really strong, like stronger than just like, oh, they're just friends. Like, no, like they were each other's people and they loved each other. Like, why didn't you talk to her at all in 7 months while being gone?
This is another thing that I have a hard time believing, that like they didn't call each other. Like, it's 2017. It's not like this takes place in like the 80s, you know, or even like before. It's even in the 80s you could call your friend, you know. Like, I mean, it's like it takes place in like the early 1900s or something, where like not everyone has a phone. I mean, Alaska has phones. Like, even if I didn't have one in my house, like I think at least once a month I'd go like call my friend from like the local town phone, you know.
Like something about the setting felt like it shouldn't be set in modern times, because we have like more modern information that like pokes holes in like what's happening. But at the same time, like it couldn't have been, or maybe it could have, but I feel like it couldn't have been like really set in the past, because we didn't have like enough language and understanding of like bipolar disorder and like the asexuality and pansexuality and stuff.
Now, because she Googled that stuff.
Yeah, she had internet. She Googled it.
Yeah. And like, if she Googled, why didn't she email? You know, like, it's kind of it doesn't all make sense. It doesn't click together with the age. It feels like they're in an age without internet, but they are, so it's weird. Like, there's
like they even, like, I know that this town is like super remote. Like, there's no like roads connecting it out. Like, the way they get mail is from a mail plane that comes like once a week. Like, they're very remote, but there are still ways to communicate. And like, Corey didn't attempt to communicate. Like,
but also, if I was Kira and I was feeling so lonely, I would have called.
Yeah.
Like, I would have called.
I mean, it also depends on what point, like, when did they start treating Kira like this is what I want to know. Because, like, Corey was gone for 6 months, and we don't know, like, did this start immediately after Corey left? Like, is that why Kira, like, did her parents, like, restrict her access to, like, phone and internet, like, as soon as Corey left? Like, yeah, I don't.
Well, yeah, it's weird because, like, her parents blame blame Corey for like holding Kira back, like by encouraging her to like find treatment and help herself. And, you know, they like actually say like, you were holding her back, you were like smothering her abilities, you know, like it was ridiculous.
Like painting.
But that painting that came true happened before Corey left.
That's true, yeah.
So it must have started like pretty soon after. They were like, "Oh, we need her to paint, so take away her meds." Like,
it probably was like immediately after, because it was Piper. Piper's the one who like saw the picture and was like, "That's magical." And then when, like, I feel like Piper was a big driving force in this. Like, she's the one that kind of exposed Kira as the town psychic. Like, she can predict things for us.
Yeah,
Right.
they're like, she became like their god. It was very strange.
Yeah.
This is a fun question. Liz asks, can you give all Booksplosion members jobs in a small town, like a baker, teacher, grocer? What would we be, guys?
Are we going to give them to each other or are you going to give them to yourself?
Jesse, I feel like, would be a teacher.
I probably would be.
I would pick teacher too. Like,
I wonder why.
I don't want to do anything else.
Wait, Kat would be a baker. I feel like Kat would be a baker. A vegan baker.
I could bake. Yeah, I'm sure my vegan bakery will be a huge hit in Lost, population 236.
Can I be like the library teacher?
Like, the town doesn't need 3 teachers. What are the town's not big enough for the 3 of us.
I'll run the dance studio. Mediocre dancing.
I'll run the town's YouTube channel.
Can you be like the mayor or something? I feel like you'd be good at that.
The mayor? Like,
can I be the sheriff? Oh my gosh, I want to be the sheriff.
Sure, if that's what you really want to be.
Oh my god. Yeah. I don't know. Like the town, what is it, jester?
Town clown.
Oh,
No, I don't like jester.
This question comes from the user Nope, and they ask, what did you think about the few moments when the story was written like a script?
See, at first, I thought that maybe these were something that Kira had written because she wrote stories.
Oh, okay.
That they were coming true in those moments. But I don't know, it just might be a way, because I feel like I've written like certain scenes like this, and like maybe she just decided to like keep them like that because like
changing up the style a little bit.
Like I liked that aspect because I like when like things in books are kind of like experimental or different. Like I liked how we had past tense, present tense, like the timeline jumping around. I like that we got to see so many like letters that Kira had written, and I liked those little like screenplay sections when I was reading it. But after finishing it, it was kind of like I didn't get why they. Yeah, I didn't get why. I was like,
there's not really like a real point to it.
Yeah, like this scene could have been written in just like regular text. Like maybe it was kind of like so we could like pull out of the first person narration and like see more of the scope. But yeah, like we either needed more of that or an explanation. Like if Corey wanted to be a screenwriter or something and she was like visualizing the scenes in this way, it would make sense. But like I liked it, I just didn't feel like there was a reason for it.
Yeah, I really
it was like a purpose. Yeah.
The only way I could like logically connect was if Kira had been like predicting it that way, because she was the story writer. And like she wanted to write stories. She didn't want to paint stories. And like if her actual stories like came true like that, it'd be weird. But like I lost my whole train. oh yeah, no, like what you were saying, like in like Finding Audrey, I think it was done really well. Like, you know how she like she was told to like film, so like we saw those things
from her perspective. Yeah, so it was more like that worked. And like Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, like I feel it really worked because he was scriptwriter, like he wrote movies, like it worked. But in this one, it was just like neither of the characters like were screenwriters, and even Kira, who was passionate about storytelling and narrative, she wasn't like a storyteller herself. She wanted to like study storytelling and narrative, and like
so it really didn't make sense.
Yeah, so I was just like,
like the phone call section, like it was just like all stuff that I feel like I've done while writing when I just felt like I didn't want to write the scene normally. Like these phone calls, like I've been like, oh, is there an easy way to do a phone call? Like, can I do it like this? And it was just like this in here, and I was like, whoa, what?
Renee says, what if Christine was the town yoga instructor? Oh my god.
I'm down. Just like dance / yoga studio.
This is an interesting one from Liz. They said, do you think they're soulmates? Maybe that's why Kyra was following her as a ghost. Their souls are bound together. That's really interesting. Really interesting theory.
I could see that. Like, obviously, like they loved each other and they were very close and like they were each other's people. So like I could definitely see that, but I don't know. I still like little things don't add up. Like why didn't Corey reply to her?
No.
I have a theory. What if, so like going with the soulmates thing, what if Corey also has like a weird ability, and it's an ability to like communicate with the dead, kind of like she has like access to them, and that's why she keeps hearing whispers, and that's why she sees all these like eyes in the forest, because those eyes are actually like people that they've also killed, and they're like, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, help me prove that these people are crazy.
I like that. That they both had some kind of like subtle magic ability or something. Yeah. I would like that, except it's like that's not the case though. Like we know.
Maybe their next target will be Aaron, and that's why like Kira was trying to show her that like this is Aaron's future, that she's going to be murdered, and that's why that she had that flash.
Maybe it's not about being murdered because Aaron is very old. Maybe he is going to die. Like he's like in his 70. Like
or maybe he's going to trip and fall, and they'll just watch him die on the ground. Like that's what will happen.
Or maybe it'll be so easy to make it look like an accident, like the dad said when he was trying to kill her.
Oh my gosh.
They make everything look like an accident. They're like, well, we don't have a firefighter, so
like I can understand. Like that's the thing. I can understand kind of like the mob mentality, the like cult mentality of like just watching the house burn down and like no one is going to help her because everyone is like just kind of like frozen and like in this together. But the fact that the dad was like telling her like, I could make you disappear, like no one would ever know what happened, like that is evil. That is a villain right there. Like that's not just like the town caught up in the moment and mob mentality. Like, he's trying to murder her.
Yeah.
And he never would have gotten away with it because, like, he hurt Roshan, even though he can't kill Roshan. Like, Roshan would have known that he killed her, and like his dad is the best. Like, he would have never gotten away. What was he doing?
You would like never in 1,000 years live in this town where you couldn't leave unless there was a freaking plane to take you out. Like, how scary and claustrophobic is that idea that like you can't get out of there unless you get on a plane? Like,
hard pass.
no, no thanks. Oh God.
Okay.
If you guys have any final questions, you should probably start sending those in. I think we have time for a couple more.
Yes. Should we talk about our next Booksplosion pick of the month?
You guys want to do real quick, like your favorite scene in the book? Because I see that question.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Let's do like favorite and least favorite scenes.
Um,
Well, I don't really have a.
It's weird because they're all sad. Like,
yeah.
I really like the scene where they were like sitting on the steps outside the spa and they were like talking about the Aurora Borealis and they were like going back and forth with like what Kira thought of it, like how she thought of it.
Yeah, the science versus storytelling.
I really like that. And I like the scene where she was just talking about how she would just kind of be there to watch Kira paint. And just be there for her. Like I loved about Corey, this is about she's like, I won't let you push me away. So whenever Kira was going through like a manic episode, like she wouldn't let her, when she was like maybe rude to her or something, she wouldn't let that get between them. She'd just still be there, which I thought was like what made their friendship so great. That like, they were just always there for each other, even when they got mad at each other for something. They were like,
yeah, like that one scene where like they argue and like Kira like storms off, but then she stops to wait for her because like even when they're mad at each other, like they're still people. Yeah, I like that. I loved all those were my favorite scenes of the book. The ones where Kira and Corey were like talking and bonding. We got to see their relationship. I love how the representation in this book was portrayed as well. Like the mental health representation, and like the whole messages of like, you're not just your diagnosis kind of thing. Also like them kind of figuring out why they won't work as a couple. Like I liked all of those aspects. Like it's hard to say like a least favorite scene because it's not that any of the scenes were a least favorite. It was like, after reading it, I'm like, the suspense feels kind of false in places.
Yeah.
And like there wasn't enough answers. But like on a scene by scene level, like the writing was great. Like there was tension and atmosphere and emotion. Like it was really well written. Yeah. Someone else talk now.
do you have a favorite one?
I hate to say this, but my favorite scene was the fire scene.
That was a
really well written and it was intense and I don't know. It was like creepy too because like she gets out of the house and like the town's just there watching it burn down and it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was just really interesting also like their whole relationship, how because I wasn't expecting, I thought they were like definitely like in a relationship, like they were girlfriends in the beginning. It's like the way she talks about her. I was like, oh, okay, they're clearly in a relationship. And then we see that scene where like they kiss and she's like, and she pulled away and Kira kind of like crumpled in on herself. And then you get the, like, then you realize that, oh wait, she actually, you know, doesn't feel romantically about her. It was just like really unexpected.
I like how that played out a lot.
Yeah. Like how they like still were like, it didn't get in the way of their friendship, you know?
Yeah, like they're still like figuring out themselves and each other, and like, yeah, I love that it didn't. If anything, it like brought them closer together. Like it wasn't like a friendship ruiner that like, oh, I'm in love with you and you aren't ever going to be in love with me. So like they were still each other's people, and yeah, I love that.
Okay, do we want to talk about our February?
Yeah, let's talk about our February book of the month.
Yeah. So in February, we will be reading Rain the Earth by A.C. Goggin. This is the first book in a new fantasy series that deals with like elemental magic and warring kingdoms and an arranged marriage, which is like makes a very fragile treaty. And yeah, it should be a good one. Nice different change of genre pace here, like very different books. Yeah, yeah, we hope you guys will join us for this one.
Yeah, and our live show will be on
March 3rd on my channel.
Yeah. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, and also, guys, we are trying to breathe more life into our social media presence. So if you post pictures of any of our books of the month on Instagram or Twitter, please tag Booksplosion so we can like see them and like them and retweet them and stuff, because we love seeing your guys' posts about the books we're reading. Like, we're trying to get more back into like book club community stuff. So talk to us about the books.
Yeah, follow us on the Twitter at Booksplosion, on the Instagram at Booksplosion. We're active now. We're making them.
I also want you guys to guess who's running each social.
Yeah, would you guys be able to guess? And we're only running two. I feel like you must know who runs the Instagram.
Pretty obvious.
We had a very lively debate about tomato soup in yesterday's post.
Yeah.
Very
content, you guys.
Okay, well, I'm really excited to read a fantasy book because it's been a while.
I know.
Yeah.
Is that it for our live show?
I think so. Thank you guys so much for coming and discussing.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to pick up Reign the Earth next month and join us for the live show. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Christine, I didn't hear you say that. So
I was waiting for Christine to do it in alphabetical order.
Anyways, we're Booksplosion. Thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you next month. Woo!